So good afternoon or good morning, wherever you are. I will begin with an acknowledgement also, acknowledging that the land on which most of us are located presently in Montreal or around is the traditional and unceded territory of the Canadian Kehaka, a place that has long served as a site of meeting and exchange among nations. This complement the note that Virginie has put. Aujourd'hui, 21 juin, est au Canada la Journée nationale des peuples autochtones. As every year since 1996, the 21st of June is the National Indigenous Peoples Day. This is hence the 25th anniversary of this day that aims to recognize and celebrate the cultures, the contributions of the First Nations, the Inuit, and the Métis Indigenous Peoples of Canada. We are therefore particularly pleased to welcome you at this presentation of Dr. Melania Alvarez, a presentation which is organized by the CRM EDI committee. There could hardly be a more appropriate and impressive speaker than Melania for the occasion. Just give a brief account of her accomplishments. She has a broad background in mathematical sciences, mathematics education, and much more. She, after her undergraduate studies in actuarial sciences, she obtained master degrees in operations research, economics, and anthropology. Then she completed a PhD in the mathematics of education. Dr. Alvarez came to Canada in 2005 to assume a joint appointment as the BC Education Coordinator at PIMS and as Outreach Coordinator for the UBC Math Department. She's made a profound impact on Canadian mathematics education at all levels by organizing countless activities for various groups. It would take a lot of time to go over that, but her contributions have been absolutely remarkable. And as a testimony of that, in 2012, Melania received the Adrien Pouliot Prize of the Canadian Mathematical Society for her contributions, and in particular, her work with the Aboriginal communities. So it is hence a privilege to have her with us today on the 25th anniversary of the National Indigenous Peoples Day, but also, as it happens, as you might have heard as we were chatting, on her birthday. So Melania, many happy returns.
Thank
and
you.
Please take the floor.
Thank you so much. I've even talked many times, but I always get nervous still, so well, we'll see. So first, I would like to state that the land on which I'm currently located is the unceded territory of the Coast Salish people, including the territories of the Musqueam, the Squamish, and the Tsleil-Waututh, and I acknowledge that I'm a guest in this land. So I also would like to thank Luc, the director, Luc Binet, and Rustum Chokshi and Virginia Leduc for inviting me and organizing this talk. Thank you very much. Now, we see this photo, and I would like to really talk about how I started working with Indigenous people here in Canada. Interestingly enough, the first band I worked with was the band in Kamloops, the Celtic band in Kamloops. So what you see here first is the band office, and then in the back, what you will see is the residential school, those red brick buildings. That's the residential school, and that's where they found nearby the 215 bodies of children that recently in the news. So what I have to actually to say is that this is actually the first place where I started working. If you look on this side, to the left, that's the school, that's Caleb, that's the elementary school, and that's where the principal and the teachers invited me to go and work with them to create a plan to support the students' math learning. Okay, so for many years I've been coming to this community not just for mathematical purpose now, but now I go there and I celebrate for celebrations, for funerals, and to visit friends. And I actually have been adopted by members of the community as part of the by some members of the community as part of their family. So for many years, I've heard the stories about how some of them attended residential schools, how they were abused, and actually some of them, when they brought this to justice, they never got justice back, because when I have a friend that when he actually was able to have a trial for some people who actually had committed some abuse against him. Already two of the people who abused him had died, and then the third person just got determined of guilty, but they died within a month or two afterwards. So you hear all these stories, and so so what it is that really what happens is what happened in Kamloops was not really surprising. I still was shocking, but it was unfortunately not surprising. So really what I like to bring in with this talk is the awareness, so that an awareness so that what happened will not be repeated, and also to recognize that there are still policies and attitudes that are detrimental to the well-being of Indigenous people in this country. What I want with this presentation is now, to show something a little bit more, what is it that we can do? And to show what are some things that some of us have been doing, and what is it that we can do as mathematicians to support the Indigenous populations, especially in the learning of mathematics. So something that we have here is, we have our spiritual, intellectual, and emotional. We are all intellectual, physical, and spiritual, and emotional beings. But what really, all that comes out of the stories first that we share with our families, then the stories we share with our friends, with our teachers, and then the world. Okay, that's what really shapes our culture. That's what really shapes our life. But also, that's also what shapes our relationship with mathematics. And unfortunately, because of a lot of abuse happen at schools, they have that many Indigenous people don't feel comfortable, or they have doubts, or they are afraid really so much sometimes, so they don't feel that they're going to be getting what they really need from schools. So this is also something that we need to take into account. Most of us really start being part of the world, the outside world, and then perhaps what we can do first in the beginning is learning some about the communities, and then some of us have gone into becoming kind of teaching each other, getting into that, then becoming friends and sometimes family. And this is, these are the stories, is how other people how the teachers treat the students, how among friends with each other, what they tell each other, and what families tell each other. And so this is all this brought up about, it is not what brings a human being. So these are things we need to take into account when we're working, not just with Indigenous people, but with everybody, but in particular with Indigenous people in this case. Now, as I said, Indigenous knowledge reflects the dynamic way in which the residents of an area have come to understand themselves in relationship to the natural world environment, how they organize that folk knowledge, flora and fauna, cultural beliefs, and the history to enhance their lives. So what happens is we learn within the context that we live. And this is really important. What is it that's out there? How we learn it, the stories that we're told, what is around us, our environment, and this is the context that we're doing our learning. So something is that what is it that we need to do? There are some people who say, well, what we need to do is to do this special kind of math. The math for Indigenous people is different, it's not the same. Perhaps because two are not going to be equal to four. That's not it. We all know that the way we learn math in the United States is different than the way we learn math in France. Even the way people learn mathematics in Quebec is different than the way people learn math in British Columbia. I really have to add this testimony to that. So each culture, has its own ways to teaching math. Math is the same mathematics. What it is the culture, the context in which we're working and we're teaching. So we use examples from our environment to teach mathematics. But what happened here, you know? So, what happens is math doesn't change, it's how you present it. What happened here is that we have people who are indigenous to this country, and they don't see themselves reflected in the math curriculum that we teach. So the math is the math, but the context, what we see is really not foreign, of course, because they live among us, but it doesn't really represent many times representative of indigenous population, or it doesn't have any examples of indigenous population. So what is it that we need to do? Well, to come here and just start, start and say, well, what is here or there? What the important thing is, well, we should start working with indigenous communities. We should start learning about their culture, about their lives, and what's important to them, to create those connections. The most important thing I found for me is to create those connections. And also, frankly, the most rewarding thing of my job has been when those connections have been created. For me, that's been really the best part of it. So how can we go with that? Well, elders are an important group among the indigenous population from which we can learn a lot. And in particular, we have here that elders say how we can approach this. Well, we have to approach it with respect. Now, we're going to make mistakes sometimes, and we all make mistakes, and I have made mistakes in my job, and yeah, I can just go and one of these days just can give a talk on kind of mistakes I made, because we all do. But also people were always understood is that I was respectful, and I took responsibility for those mistakes. Okay, but you approach things with respect, with responsibility, thinking that this is reciprocity. I don't come here to tell you what to know. We're going to learn from each other, to have reverence for this new knowledge, to look at the whole picture, to really to have some synergy there. That's what is important. This is the way we should approach the communities that people are working with. And in particular, we should be working with elders. This is. And elders are always willing, they're always willing to impart their knowledge. It's a wonderful experience. So we started, the UBC Department of Mathematics and PIMS have developed partnerships with First Nation schools, indigenous communities. In particular, PIMS had also, in British Columbia, but PIMS in particular have also developed partnerships in Alberta, in Manitoba, and Saskatchewan. Okay, so that's it. Now, some people have asked me where this is. If you ever come to British Columbia, like not all the way up, but like kind of the middle highway 19, there's a beautiful town called Hazelton, and there's a town called Hassan, and this is where you can find this beautiful instructions. So just in case you're interested. So yes, I have been all over the place. Sometimes I feel like the explorer. I have gone to places where first I have to take airplanes, and then the chief comes in a boat and takes me to his place because there's no place to go. So I go to fjords. I've been all over the place. It's been quite an adventure also. So remote places, and I know sometimes no remote places. So this is also what's interesting, because for example here people think, well, sometimes the research are really far away. Really check that out, because for example here in Vancouver, there's a reserve that is 10 minutes from the University of British Columbia. And then there's another one that is just in North Vancouver. So sometimes they are not as far away as we think. So now, what is our guiding principle when we're working with indigenous people? It is to leave behind the philosophy of reduced expectations. Okay, this is something. These paternalistic ways that many times we come with, like if we think that we know better, or that we can, or that we're giving them something. This is a matter of reciprocity. But also what happens, and I'm going to say, and it's not going to sound nice, is I go and I work with people and I say, well, this is an indigenous child, so probably his parents are alcoholic, and they're this and they're that, and they're ignorant. They have all these preconceptions in mind before allowing the child to just come to you and show you all the wonderful things that you can learn from that child. So I always have high expectations. You know, when someone comes to me, I always have, let's see what we can do. Let's go and have this. Now, something also that happens with mathematics, and many of you know, is that mathematics build confidence in students. What I find is that when a student starts doing well in mathematics, they also start doing well in all in other subjects. And I think that this is also something that we as mathematicians we can give extra to people. It's not just for math, but it's for everything else. So leave behind the philosophy of our reduced expectations, have high expectations, and work with it. I had as a Latina, and I guess perhaps this is why I also do the job. I had times where people will think that I was not able to do that, or that I didn't have education. I will tell a particular story that happened with my son. Also, he moved from elementary school to middle school, and they put him in the lowest math level because of his name. And so then they thought that he, in the lowest math level because of his name. And then so I went and I complained, and I went back and forth with the principal. And then he told me, well, if anything, Mrs. Adam, your son will be able to have the math help here that he cannot get at home. So you see, and I almost flipped with that. But this not only happened to me, I've seen it also here. These low expectations, this way of treating people. And the sad thing, and I really the sad thing, because I also have talked to kids here, is that kids start to believe that they are not able to do it because the message they get from the people who are teaching them is that they cannot accomplish the same. So I think that's the worst that we can give. I mean, when the children, well, I know I have a little bit of a learning disability, but when I hear this, it just breaks my heart. So it's go there, and you will go with high expectations, and I will tell you, you'll be pleasantly surprised. I have to say, if you want to also, someone a little bit closer, Rustum, for a while, he also came to some activities to the Friendship Center with me, and we work with little kids, and he can tell you what a wonderful time he had working with Indigenous students, and how pleasantly, so I don't be surprised how happy he was to see how well they were doing, and how much they were learning from them. So, this is my experience, and I think this also experience of a lot of people. But high expectations and no paternalism are an important part of it. Well, now, what kind of activities we've done? Okay, we work with teachers. I'm going to get a little bit better, but we do teachers workshops. We go gone all over British Columbia to First Nation schools or to schools with a high percentage of Indigenous students. And I work with teachers as well, because there are issues there about well, and that's not just for the Indigenous population. We need to work a little bit more on teacher preparation for mathematics, and that's something. But we go and we do that extra support. We go to teachers, we work with them, we check also schools, we support them with their students, we do things like that. Now, all these we are invited to. We usually are invited, or we ask and we come. We don't impose ourselves, never. This is something where we go, we get invited, and we're working always, together. So we work with teachers there. We also have mentorship programs where this is something where you can use your undergraduate students or your graduate students, and then what we usually do is we create homework clubs in the afternoon, and then usually our undergraduate students that are majoring in math, they'll go and they attend these math clubs in these homework clubs in the afternoon, and they help the students with the math and with any problems they might have in mathematics. Schools love this, they really do, and I think it's also a wonderful experience for our students to get to know students from the Indigenous community, but also to practice their teaching. We also have mentorship tutoring programs, and what we did, and this worked out really, really beautifully, is that we will go to high schools and we will choose good math students with, indigenous students, those who are really good in math. And what we will do is we'll offer them a job where we will pay them $100 a month to mentor their peers or younger students. So some of them will mentor their own peers, or some of them will mentor school students in middle school. And so the contract was that they had to mentor 3 or 4 students for the whole year. We did that, and that worked out beautifully, because it was not just good for the students who were mentored, but also for those of the mentee. And many times they ended up being recognized by the community and becoming leaders and their confidence. So it was something. It created something really really that enriching, not just for the mentors, but for the mentee, but for the mentors as well. We also have a variety of summer camps. There sometimes this is important that we do. Sometimes in faraway places, I get to know the teachers, to work with them, and then they say, yes, we would like to have a summer camp. The varieties are we have quite a variety of summer camps. There was a summer camp, for example, where during the summer it was the soup and math summer camp. So the elders will prepare soup, okay, and the students will come and have some soup. Either they will have it before the math or after the math, but they will come, have soup, and they will do mathematics, or they will do mathematics, and then they'll gather afterwards and they have soup, and then they will discuss about math. So that was a nice one. Then we combine it with we have soccer and math. We have art, acting and math. So we did that. We combined things, and so the students will usually be busy in the morning. We found that these kinds of summer camps, where it was just half a day, will work better in smaller communities. Summer camps that lasted the whole day were not as successful in smaller communities. They were usually more successful in places like Vancouver. So we have that. We have a variety of summer camps that were really, they kept the students going and active, and they really made a big difference when they started next year. We have a scholarship programs. We have programs for parents. And again, a meal goes a long way. So what we did is we will have evenings where we will invite parents. The first time we then made a mistake of saying it's dinner and math, and very few parents came because they said, no, I'm not going to go for the math thing. I'm scared of that. I don't want to do that. So we changed it as an evening of a dinner and games and puzzles. The people expected puzzles to be those puzzles that you put together with pieces, but at first it's like, oh, we're going to do math. No, we're going to do games. We had a great time. We showed them a lot of math games, a lot of techniques that they could use for the kids, but a lot of fun. And then at the end, we gave them care packages. And actually, those care packages were not very expensive. We will do with we have just a little paper, dice, things like that. So we put all those things together. We gave them to them so that then they will go home and they play and do math with the kids. And many parents say, well, now we do that. We do this in the car, or we do this, or in the evenings, I take out this PDF piece of paper that you printed for us, and we're playing the whole evening. And and they said, oh, I didn't know that math could be so cheap, such a cheap entertainment, because it's very inexpensive to have a lot of fun with mathematics. So that was a good thing that we got. Partnerships with other academic institutions is really important, and partnership with the community. And there are also many places, like for example here in Vancouver, we have the First Nation Education Steering Committee, and they are in charge of the education here for Indigenous people. So we have partnership with them. We go with them and ask them if there's anything they need. They were the ones that started the initial connections actually with Caleb. And at some point, they actually also asked us to develop an assessment program for them. So it's again, those partnerships, those connections. Now, thinking about transitions. So students start, they're two really main transitions that kids go through. The one is from, especially here, one is from elementary school to high school, and then from high school to university. So what we have done for that is we have created here in Vancouver some summer camps. And actually for the last 14 summers since 2007, we have had these summer camps, 4-day summer camps for Indigenous students. There's this summer camp that unfortunately we haven't had funding for it. And I actually think probably is the most important, and I really would like to get more funding with that. I'm just saying this so that if there's someone reach out there in the, in the audience, would give us money for that. So the transitional summer camp is the one transitioning from elementary to high school. And these are students who are finishing 7th grade, going into 8th grade. And we take those students for 5 weeks, and we give them in the morning an hour and a half of math and an hour and a half of English. This is a 5-week summer camp. We give them breakfast, we give them lunch, and then there were games in the afternoon and things like that. So that was it. But those 5 weeks really made a difference in their academics. And we chose math, but English is the other subject. So for me, it was also to go and get an English teacher. And this is important. For me, was to get master teachers in math and in English. That was very important to do. So people who really enjoy the subject and who feel recognized as really, really great teachers. So we had that. Then we also did the similar thing in high school. There was the Emerging Aboriginal Scholars Summer Camp that started at UBC. And then we asked SFU if they would like to join us. We actually wanted to do the camps in both places because the need was really great. So then we approached SFU, and Vesely Junyek from SFU started the SFU Academic Summer Camp for Aboriginal students. And then, it's a matter of money. With how we get it and all the stuff. First it was UBC, then SFU. And then right now we have a partnership. UBC has a partnership with Langara College, and we're doing the Emerging Indigenous Scholars Summer Camp. So I will talk a little bit about the summer camp. It's again 5 weeks. There are some programs where they go 1 week, and I think those programs are good and are helpful, and sometimes they bring the students and they show them what is at the university. But for me, I really wanted that there will be the academic difference in students. And we have had students that have gone through programs, and they really they failed Math 10, and by the end of our summer camp, they actually took the online test and they passed Math 10. So that at that level. And they also do with the reading and writing skills. So that's why it's a 5-week summer camp, because we wanted to see that difference. So this summer camp that we have is, again, in the morning, we give them breakfast, okay? And then they have math. Well, with the limit of the summer camp is 30 students. We divide them in groups of 15, and where one is taking mathematics, the other one is taking English. And then we have a snack, and then again, math, English, and then we provide lunch. So that's the thing. So they're learning math and English. Then we came up with the idea of internships. So what I did was to contact professors around the university and ask them if they will be willing to have an Indigenous student following them or working with them for 5 weeks. And people are great at universities. Many of them say yes. So the students will have an internship program Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday from 1:30 to 4 o'clock. They will work with professors at the university, okay, in an area of their choice. Sometimes we were able to do that. And actually, we pay the students $100 for 7.5 hours of work a week. Students attended, chemistry labs, physics labs. Some of them went to the nuclear, to TRIUMPH, the nuclear accelerator. There are all sorts of, so they will be there for 5 weeks. And then on Thursdays, of course, we had the cultural part in the afternoon where people from the indigenous community who were successful in the area came and talked to students about their lives and how have they overcome, you know, any difficulties, and how is it that they got what they were now. So that was this is what it was. Now, the objectives of this summer camp was to increase Indigenous students' participation, orientation in high school graduation. It really made a difference. We really wanted to be better prepared, and some students attended 2-3 times and will see the programs and the progress, and then they actually ended up attending the secondary institutions. We also wanted to expose Indigenous students to real life working. You know, what does it really mean to be working as a professor at the university? Okay, and taking courses at the university. For many of the students, to go to university seemed like an impossible thing, and they couldn't see themselves. So, but here they took classes at the university, they worked at the university, so that really made a difference. And then to show them all kinds of activities, you know, things that were out there for them, you know, what was there, all sorts of possibilities, and then to research and employment possibilities. That was it. Also, some students, they later on wanted a letter of recommendation to get another job. That happened, and they actually got a recommendation from a professor at UBC, you know, and that was really great. So them, and it's hands-on experience. Now, academic timeline. So what happened is there was, in particular, first we started working with the school, that most of the students, by the time they got to grade 10, most of them were quitting school and forget about math 10 and all that stuff. So we started working first with that school. Many of the students in the school started attending these summer camps. And by the end of the first year too, most of the students who were with us were passing math 10. But and then later on, they went to do pre-calculus 12. And actually, we have several students that were taking calculus in high school. We have students that got accepted into the mini-med school program, okay? And we have substantial percentage of those people who attended with us to post-secondary institutions. Now, I have to say that many of those also took the summer camp, that transition from elementary to high school. And I think that was also an important point. Sometimes I think the earlier we start, the better. And I think that point in life is very important. Now, I'm going to show you the budget. Some people told me not to do that. This is the maximum we have spent. This is a little bit the logs. We can also pay a little bit, spend a little bit less, but this is for 30 students, and for the 5 weeks was 50,500. We could go down all the way to 40,000 away, and we have teachers, we have math coordinators, so there are things that we can even cover. This will be like the maximum, you know. Now, some people have said that it's expensive. Oh, this is too expensive. Well, I really think that, you know, what will be the benefits of having something like this, you know? So there is a report by the Reconciliation in Growing Canada's Economy, and they said, well, you know, if we have indigenous that have the same education, okay, as non-indigenous people, the productivity will mean an additional 8.5 billion in income earnings annually, okay? And if indigenous people were given the same access to economic opportunities, well, it could be another 6.9 billion per year in employment income. And if the poverty rates among the indigenous were reduced, you know, that could mean again another 8.4 billion. So it's really that expensive. It is not expensive, you know. And for each, it's really each child that is able to overcome a lot of difficulties. It really, you know, just think about what that individual will give to our society. We recently also started, actually this is the first year we do it. SFU has a transitional program where for the first year that is indigenous students attend SFU, the students are given math, and they're given English, and they're given some courses, so that then by the second year they are better prepared to take on the university. However, the person who organizes this program approached me and said, well, Melania, I have an issue that I have, if some students, 12 students, that the level of mathematics is really, really low. So what we're doing is right now is to do a propedeutic. And this propedeutic is, we're taking those students for 4 weeks, okay? And the students are accepting the transition program, so they're going to do hours, not course. The 3 hours of math, 5 days a week for 5 weeks. We again have a master teacher, and our undergraduate students are becoming volunteers. And they take 2 hours of math with the teacher, and then the last hour they work one-to-one with the volunteer. And well, we hope we're gonna get the results. I cannot tell you yet that, but I think that will, given our previous experience, I think this is going to make a difference. Also, something that we've done, PIMS and BERS, I said, working with different institutions. Over the years, we have created groups with elders, math educators, indigenous coordinators, and mathematicians. We, out of that, have a lot of things can come out. Veselin Junjek from SFU, Mark McLean from UBC, together with some elders of indigenous people, has started writing stories, mathematical stories that you can find on the web. A small number counts to 100. Just Google that and you will find that story and a lot of stories, not just in English, but also in other indigenous languages like Cree and Blackfoot and all that. So that's a collaboration between elders, mathematicians, and so that's another possibility. Now we have, and this is something that perhaps I'm checking the time, the teaching program. There are several teaching programs for indigenous people at different universities. And there are a lot of problems with math prerequisites. And sometimes I think that the system is the problem. What happened is all of a sudden in one semester, they're supposed to learn all the math that they need to learn so that they can go into the teaching program or proceeding to the teaching program. And they really don't have a good math background. And frankly, mathematics is a language, and we know that it takes time to learn mathematics. So mathematics is a language. Mathematics, we know it's about thinking and strategizing. I actually think really that math is the art of thinking. It is the art of thinking and strategizing. So, it's about thinking and strategizing, and learning mathematics is a process that takes time. So one semester program is really short time to learn, and many times, it really is not working. What, for example, is happening at UBC, which for me is a little bit sometimes concerning, and they're working so it will not happen again, is that sometimes some people who want to become elementary school teachers are told to go into the secondary program so they don't have to take mathematics and avoid math, and then they become elementary school teachers once they graduate. So that's not a good approach. So the thing is here, swim or sink. I don't know what there is, swim or sink. So what I really would like to do is to create like a series of models between 10 and 20 modules that are spread over the period of time. So when the student starts university, perhaps they can take those modules and take it at their pace. And then perhaps, and when they finish those modules, then they get the equivalent of having taken that math prerequisite. But then they really have taken math at their pace and they understand it, and then they can become a better teacher. So this is flexibility versus rigidity. I try to talk to people at the university about this. Sean Desaniels at the University of Alberta, and we hope that we're able to have a little bit of flexibility there so that we're able to create a program like this. And so if you are interested in creating something like that, or have an idea about how the math that should be there, or would like to do anything like that and join us, just let me know. Yeah, this is my spiel too. I always work with a lot of people. I'm not the only person doing this. If I'm able to present some of this to you, it's because here we are quite a group of people that will work together. People from SFU, people from Langara, people from UBC. We all work together and we support each other and help each other. Now, I'm just going to finish with this. We also have, and this is, we usually invite a lot of indigenous teachers to come and work with us, but we also, this we do for all the teachers. We have a 4-week summer camp for elementary school teachers. And what we do is they do 3 hours of math with us for 4 weeks. And it really has changed the teaching of several teachers now. This is our 5th year. We're going to do it this time for the first time online. So the next 2 weeks, I'm preparing materials like crazy, and then I have to distribute them all over the place. But it really is one of the programs that I find most rewarding, because many times what happens is we work with the students, they do well, they end up well, those 5 weeks, they are doing phenomenal, and then they go and they have a teacher that doesn't have the adequate preparation for the student to keep on going. So working with teachers is also important. So usually we work with 21 teachers. Usually our goal is to have 3 teachers per school, and they are selected on their interest and enthusiasm, interest, not necessarily their skills. So we do, so you can see, we have summer camps, we have mentorship programs, we have all sorts of things. And the most important thing is work with the community to see what is really that needed. Now, going back with Silco, Escalep, as I said, this is the first school I started working with when I started working with Indigenous people. Escalep is Coyote. Escalep is the trickster. And the trickster in many cultures is the one that also brings the knowledge, brings the light, brings anything. So in this case, in the Kamloops band, the trickster is Coyote. But there was this phrase that that they have as a motto that said, "We believe the union of Aboriginal tradition and academic excellence can live in one house in the harmony for the betterment of all." And with this, I finish my presentation, and I'd like to thank you all. And if you have any questions, let me know.
First, thank you very much, Melania. This is a beautiful presentation, uplifting and enthusing. Thank you for it and for all you do. Are there some questions? Yes, Christina.
Hi,
This wonderful presentation. I see that you are doing a lot of very valuable work with the Indigenous communities. That's great. I am from the University of Western Ontario. My question is, what are the enrollments in the various programs that you are offering?
What are the enrollments? Well, like what we do when we do the summer camp, what I realized is, because we really need to do, somebody say, oh, you should go and have 100 kids and this and that. That's not possible because of the level of care and see how that you need to give to students there. So it's usually the maximum is 30 kids, and for the summer camps. Now, when we go to schools, I go and work with schools with all the kids there. I visit every school. So that's what we do. Mentorships and scholarships, that depends on the money that we get from donors and things like that. But for a summer camp, like that would be 30 people if it contain. Now, if I had more funding, we could do several one of them contain ones, right? So that would also depend. We also, I have to tell you, our level of attendance is pretty good. It's over 90%. There are other summer camps where that's not the case. It could be 50%, 30%. We actually do very well. People are surprised about that. But the thing is, we have high expectations, and we also have a lot of discipline. And we actually tell the students they have to sign the contract at the beginning about all the rules. And when they come and tell me, I didn't know that, I said, you just signed this, So we have that. And so that's it. With schools, we work with schools all over. And so, for summer camps will be about 30 students, a year. But we have different camps. Like right now, we're supporting a camp in Souk, and that's, so it depends. And then what happens, there's some. This is the one I'm more attached to. But for example, there are other summer camps, like right now in Souk. I work with the teachers. We came up with a plan, and then we send funding, and then I'm checking on how they're doing things like that. So that we could have several summer camps running at the same time. But the thing for me is that I have worked already with the teachers that know how they work, all the stuff. We put stuff together. So it depends, it could be 20 kids here, 10 kids there. It depends. It depends where they are. I don't know if that answered your question.
Yes, I really like your idea of preparing future math teachers by providing better support before they start a program at university.
Yes.
I'm wondering there how you manage that. What are your enrollments?
Oh,
How do you reach out to the communities?
well, I mean, this is something that the University of British Columbia does. They have a program which is NITEP, and they have that. So it depends how many students they have. I don't enroll that. So sometimes they take my course. I actually at the university I teach the course for that's the prerequisite for future elementary school teachers, right? So that's it. But I sometimes I think that sometimes some of students need a little bit more time, and not just Indigenous students. I gotta say that there are some students that actually I wish that we, because these are going to be teachers, these are people who are going to be teaching our students. I think that perhaps if we did something where we would spread it a little bit more, and that they have that time to reflect and understand and work better math, that would be better. Yeah.
Thank you. As you can see, there are a few hands up, so I'll turn to you in the order I spotted you. So Rustum, Frédéric, and then Rosalie. So Rustum.
Thank you, Melania, for a great talk. So one thing, so of course we were interested in whether there were possibilities of doing something similar in Quebec. And
Yeah.
of course, the provinces are all very different. And of course, when I saw you guys working in Vancouver, it seemed to be a more of a, how could I say it, a community in terms of a different bands, there was the Friendship Center. And I'm just wondering how one would approach doing this from scratch in a province where, for example, there are many bands whose second language is French, and there are whose second language are English. So how would one go about this, go about starting?
Well, okay. So I'm going to say this. I started with Skellep. I started with one school, right? Don't worry about spreading. If you do a good job, later on you get called, other people calls you, and then you're in big trouble. So the thing is to start, and then I say approach. Will you, like I remember going to Finesque and talking to the director, said, look, we do this. Will you be interested? Will you be interested? And then she put together a meeting, but not for me just to go and tell them, but for me to listen. And then I said, well, this is some of the things that we could do, and then working together. So I will not go to everybody and no, try to see if there's some connection or an elder or someone, and start with one band and start with one organization. Don't try to do it like globally. No, I think that I will start little, and don't worry if you want to go big, it can happen. You just be careful what you wish for, because it's But yes, I started with the Skellep. It was little by little, and then the next year there were 4 or 5 schools, and then it was 15 schools, and then I was traveling all over the place. Yeah. So that happened. Okay, and then connections are created, and they take time. Some people are more open, some people are less open, but yes, connections are created, and that's the way it happens. But start small. Get to know the community, get to know the people. Don't want to, get to know some group of people, get to know their needs, ask them what they need, and then that will be my recommendation.
Thanks.
Just following up on Rustum's question, Melania, did you use UBC? So for instance, at McGill, there's the First Nations house or something like that. Did you use the infrastructure of UBC, or you made the contacts yourselves with
in this case, actually, what happened is that here in British Columbia, there's a First Nation Education Steering Committee. So I went to them first because I knew that they were the ones in charge of education, Indigenous education for the whole province. And I talked to the director, and that's the way it happened. Now, later on, of course, there's the Longhouse here at UBC, and so of course, then also I talked to them and connected and all that stuff. In my case, I first went to Finesque, but then later on, I talked to the coordinator, Indigenous coordinator, and the director of the Longhouse, and I made them aware of the things that I was doing as well. and also if they were, if they we would perhaps to have some synergy and work together as well. I am a person who likes to work with people and to bring them in as much as I can.
Thank you. Frédéric.
I think that Rustum's question basically led Melania to answer the question I had. So thank you very much, Melania, for your presentation. I wanted you to talk more about how it gradually got developed. My fear in those things is that we shoot for the sky. And what I gathered from your talk was that you started slow, started with one project. And I gathered from what you said that the idea is not to come in with a specific project in mind, but first to meet the community, to make some contact, gradually to come and see what might develop given the context we're in.
That's right. Not to. People always think about having big and I think if you first of all you need to learn about the community and their culture and a lot of things, and what are their wants and their needs. And as I said, I have made mistakes, and even we started when we did this project, this transitional thing, for example, in Kamloops, and it didn't work as well as in Vancouver because the community is different, and the kids have different expectations. Urban Aboriginal kids have different expectations than kids like in Kamloops for the summer. That's it. So I think that starting small and getting to know communities is the best way.
Well, thank you, and I hope that something will come out of this through the CRM. That would be such wonderful news if there were a few of us, and I include myself in that, who could get together and slowly, gradually start things. I would certainly be willing to work in that direction. So
and I'll be happy to help in any way I can. At least that you can learn from my mistakes. Okay.
I wish we learned from other things than your mistakes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Rosalie.
Yes, hi. Thanks so much, Melania. It was a great talk and really great to see that you've been involved in so much and that there's so much to do. My name is Rosalie. I'm from McGill University in Montreal. And my question was actually, I was really interested about what you suggested about having modules spread out over time instead of a one semester course. And I was thinking, that's always a dichotomy actually that I have an issue with as a teacher, is that I want to give more flexibility to students and different learners, right, to go at their own pace. But at the same time, I kind of want to encourage students to do things regularly and, to have homeworks due regularly so that they stay on track and that we can move forward. And there's sort of a sense of community, I suppose, that comes from doing it all at the same time, roughly. I was wondering about that.
Well, okay, what happens is, for example, this is also something about the culture of Indigenous people. For example, someone dies in the family. They live for 2 weeks. Many of them, you find that there's expectation of, and this is also because of, you say, you will expect them to have a way of doing things because this is the way you and I, live, and grew up with in a way. But for example, sometimes I have students say, well, I couldn't come because I have to take care of my nephews, for a week, or there are things like that. And I know that you are now at the university and all that stuff, but I think it's a matter of, it's a learning process also, and it's a compromise, and I see that. I used to be more strict and all that stuff, but I also see what is it that I want. Do I want good teachers to go to the reserves, or I want a teacher that goes around mathematics, and in a way, and then becomes an elementary school teacher reserve. I don't want that to happen, So, and many of these people are very capable, but they were also many times also because of racism and all the stuff, they were not given the mathematical tools they needed. So the schools have failed them. The schools have failed them. And then they come to university and we expect them all of a sudden to do things like some of us where the schools that didn't fail us as badly. Okay, so we need to start working on that. And I actually think that as more you work and you give opportunities to the Indigenous people, also some things are going to change on both ways. Also we need to have flexibility in that part. But I agree that I agree with you in a way. but at the same time, there's reality too. And I'd rather work with reality and with something that perhaps that could help, so that then there could be a real change. Because I see that doing one semester for someone who was really not taught mathematics well, and in one semester to have the math take one semester to have the math that is required to become a teacher is not enough. And I see what happens. I see what happens in research, and I see some kids. If I could give it, I right now it's short. I see some examples of some kids that they understood approximation and limits. Two second graders, they understood that. You know, like why 0 divided by 0 was. I was just blown away. Anyway, so the thing is that they are very capable people, but we have teachers, and these teachers are also very capable people, but they have not been adequately prepared. And they also have all these other things happening in their lives because of the injustices in the system also. So until we move forward and these things happen less and less, perhaps we should start with some flexibility right now. So then later on, this is not needed. That's the way I see it.
Thank you.
I see Audrey has a question. Audrey?
Yeah.
Yes, hi. I'm actually a high school math teacher for Learn Quebec. And I've had a lot of Indigenous students in my classes over the years, brilliant ones. And what I'm wondering now, because I've always felt very self-conscious as a white teacher, you know, I always wonder, I spend a lot of time trying to establish trust in any way that I can, and I probably am not doing a good job of it. But I'm wondering about your summer school staff. What proportion of those teachers are Indigenous?
Well, some of them are, and some of them aren't. It all depends, you know. For example, there's a summer where there's, I would say that's probably around 50-50, you know.
Okay.
It all depends. Yeah, we have had coordinators that are Indigenous. We have had coordinators that are Indigenous. Once we had for the transitional summer camp, we have this fantastic Indigenous poet. Oh God. For 2-3 years, he taught the kids, and he was one of those guys that stand and start talking, doing all this poetry, and the kids really love him. So, you know, for me, he's the person who's going to do the right job, and they are Indigenous people. At some point they're doing, and there are some other non-Indigenous people who do it. So, you know, and that's the important thing. So don't think that because you are not Indigenous, you cannot do a good job. I don't know if you're Indigenous or not. It is where your heart is and how you approach it and how respectful you are. Okay, that's the reality. That's what I see. Okay, and so just do your best. That's what I tell people. Be respectful. Do your best, which I'm sure you do, and you know, and open to different ways. So, you know. So I think probably you're doing a better job than you think.
Thank you. Hope so.
Jessica?
Hi, Melania. Thank you very much for a very interesting and inspiring presentation. I wanted to ask, all the programs that you described were specifically targeted towards Indigenous students and parents, et cetera. Do you have any experience with general outreach programs for a more and how Indigenous students participate? Could you maybe comment on that?
Yes, I do have math circles, and I had some Indigenous students attending. You know, not that many, but we have some. We do Math Mania. We do Math Mania where I go to schools and we do, and this is the schools that are mixed, you know, Indigenous, not Indigenous kids, and they do that. So we have math circles. We have Math Mania. We have math competitions. Actually, with math competitions, the demographics, they're actually mainly Asian. Actually, in our case, you know, so that's the reality. We don't stop anyone. We encourage people, of everybody to come. I also work a lot with underrepresented minorities. I work with kids that were recent immigrants from Philippines too, because there was also discrimination there. I found that I was told that these kids couldn't do anything, and then we have some 2 weeks of math, and we were having the time of our lives, and they were doing quite well mathematically. But that's because because the language was not there. People were making assumptions about their intelligence, for example. So I work with other kids. We had a mentorship program at Point Grey, and the mentorship program was because money that we received for Indigenous students. However, everybody was invited, and the students were told that the mentorship program was possible because, or the tutoring program was possible because of Indigenous money. So that really brought together Indigenous and non-Indigenous people, and they were thankful about that. So we try to create programs where yes, we can bring people together. Well, but it is true that there's sometimes a level of separation, like that I've seen sometimes in high school. Here are the Indigenous kids, here are the Anglo kids, here are the Asian kids, and yeah, sometimes I find that that's a problem.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we're a bit at time, but I might ask myself one or two questions, if I may. I unfortunately, Louise, we have at the CRM, Louise Poirier was not so much involved with First Nations people, but with underprivileged communities and immigrant communities. And I just hope that you two have the occasion to chat, because she uses games, traditional games that are borrowed from, African nations, and to interact with parents, providing some kits, so that then the parents play with their children, and she's having a lot of success. But one day she will tell you.
So that's what we do all day with the parents' nights and stuff like that. It's games, but also if they have math questions about how to support the kids in a particular way, we also do that.
Yeah. So she has created an extension center that is doing quite well in this respect.
I would like to see that. That's
yeah.
That would be very interesting
to
me.
But my question is a bit more singular, in that I observed that in your pictures you were showing mostly girls. So I was wondering if in communities you observe biases like we have, either one way or the other. Are the boys, showing more interest in math, or what is your experience in that respect?
Actually, we have a good spread, almost 50-50 of boys and girls. But I find that also many summer camps that people do for Indigenous children have usually more girls than boys. And there's been that's especially when it's higher level, that we start to find that. And it is true that there are more women graduating from post-secondary than men in Indigenous population. And that's also sometimes reflected in some summer camps. For us, in our summer camps so far, I don't know what is it that we do our recruitment. I'm not going to tell you that we've done anything. We seem sometimes, it's more or less, we don't see like 20 girls and 10 boys. No, we usually will see perhaps 17 girls, and sometimes there was a year where we had more boys than girls, and we were like, oh, okay. But I'm really bad about looking at those things. But this one people brought up to my attention. But usually, sometimes you find more girls. The pictures, why is it I don't know. I don't know why they have more girls than boys. Okay, I got to check on that. And now I got to go back and look at all my pictures. Okay.
It's just
I know.
An experiment to see if it's a universal phenomenon or if there's a cultural, aspect to it. It could be interesting sociologically.
But it is true that yes, there are more females graduating from post-secondary. That's that's the reality.
And quickly, my last question was: are you starting to see alumni of your program coming back to participate and help and contribute?
Yes, we have. I mean, this is relatively recent, but yes, we have someone who did graduate, and she's going back, and now she helps in summer camps at Britannia, which is like then there's this guy who went into engineering in Waterloo. I haven't seen him later, but he said he's also interested in helping. So there's some of them who do. And the interesting thing also is that they have become role models. They come and they talk and something that's also very interesting was one of them said, well, I thought that Melania was going to come and do everything for me, and really things started to get better until I realized that she was just there to support me and it had to come from within me. And I think that that's really the message that we need to send. We're not there to change anyone. We're just there to support them so that then they within themselves find it to move forward. That's the main thing.
Melania, I see we're past time, so we're abusing from you.
No, it's okay.
I want to, we could spend a lot of time discussing with you. Thank you for this talk, for your passion, and for all you've accomplished. We've really much appreciated
Thank you.
the exchanges with you. And so on behalf of the whole community of CRM that has been even broadened, our EDI community, really want to thank you. And in closing, to wish you a very happy birthday. So
thank you so much.
so much.
Yeah, thank you so much.